Last year, in 2025, I continued my goal of working through my video game backlog. I had an amazing time doing it the year before. It completely revitalized my love for gaming and felt incredibly rewarding. In 2025, I was able to finish 16 games. That's less than the 26 I beat the year before, but honestly, that was to be expected. Life got a lot busier for me this year between working full-time in a part-time job, maintaining a social life, and keeping up with other hobbies. I'm glad I was able to strike a balance. I'm going to go through every game I finished in 2025 and talk about my overall thoughts. To start the year, I played through Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Although I got the game back in 2017, I decided to finally beat the entire story this year. In the past, I'd always get distracted just wandering through the world, because there's so much to do. On this run, I made sure to actually get to the very end and beat Calamity Ganon along with all the shrines in both DLC, Trial of the Sword and the Champion's Ballad. I played the game emulated on my PC, which I think is without a doubt the definitive way to play it, in Quad HD running at 144 frames per second. It's an incredible experience with a breathtaking world, and at this point what hasn't already been said about it? 10 out of 10 experience. Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. In January, I found my 3DS that I could not find for the past year and a half. Since it's been a while since I played on it, I knew I had to finish some games I'd abandoned years ago. The first game on my list was A Link Between Worlds, the first 2D Zelda game that I've ever played. I never fully beat it as a kid, since I wanted to get all the heart pieces, but I couldn't beat that damn stupid Octorok baseball minigame. Well, I finally buckled down, gathered all the remaining heart pieces I was looking for, and beat it. Even though I'd beaten most of it years ago, fighting Yuga Ganon and getting through Lorule Castle was a blast, and definitely makes me want to play more 2D Zelda games down the line. Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. Funny story with this one. I went on a lucky blackjack streak one day, won $100, immediately cashed out, and bought the game. In retrospect, blackjack money was very well spent. While I don't think this game quite reaches Tropical Freeze's highs, the platforming and bosses were intense, challenging, and immensely satisfying when I finally got through a level I struggled with. Donkey Kong and Diddy's controls are super tight, and the levels were always unique, with plenty of charm. Donkey Kong Country remains my favorite 2D platforming series. Batman Arkham City. This was another long overdue finish. I originally bought Arkham City back in 2015, and got about 70% through it before dropping it. It took a little time to get used to the combat again, but once it clicked, man, was it a thrill. You can really see how this game laid the groundwork for modern superhero games like Spider-Man. The stealth, combat, and overall design still hold up nearly 15 years later. And of course the story was quite captivating, and I loved fighting Batman's amazing rogues gallery. Without a doubt, one of the best in the superhero genre. Chrono Trigger. This seems to be on everyone's list for one of the best JRPGs of all time, and I'm happy to say that it not only lives up to the hype, but exceeds it. The sprite work is so incredibly fluid and expressive, and still holds up 30 years later. Insane. The story is really engaging, especially the ending, and the ATB combat system and different character combos are a ton of fun. Don't even get me started on the music and just the overall ambiance of all the different time periods. My favorite team to run was Chrono, Ayla, and Robo, but I ended up playing with all the different characters for their different strengths. What a masterpiece. Halo 4. This was the last game I had left on the Master Chief Collection. Unfortunately, it does not hold a candle to the previous Halo games. By far the weakest in my opinion, the new Promethean enemies are much more forgettable than the Covenant, Brutes, and Flood, and the overall pacing of the game just feels off. That said, I did like a lot of the new weapons, and the vehicle sections were phenomenal. I just think if the missions were shorter and more focused, I would have been a lot more engaged. Even though it's weaker than the others, it was still fun going through one last ride in the Halo universe as the Chief. Sonic Adventure 1. Growing up, I loved Sonic and always wanted to play the adventure games, but I never really got the chance. I finally decided to give it a shot this year, and honestly, I was pleasantly surprised. Although the graphics and story are pretty silly, the levels do have a lot of charm to them and the music absolutely slaps. I loved how differently each of the characters controlled, especially Gamma, Tails, and Knuckles, although I didn't really like his levels. And traversal was extremely fun. It blew my expectations out of the water in terms of gameplay, and despite its age, this game is still a joy to play. GTA 5. I know what you're thinking, and yes, it is crazy that I've never played the GTA 5 campaign until 2025. I played through San Andreas in 2024, and I knew I had to return to the beautiful state once again. The story was solid, I loved all the characters, especially Trevor and Franklin, and the heists were a blast. So many quality of life improvements were added that's going to make it hard to go back to any of the older games. The enhanced version's visuals are fantastic. With all that being said, I did like San Andreas a little bit better. The game had more variety in gameplay, and I was more attached to CJ as a character in comparison to the three main protagonists of GTA 5. Regardless, it's no shock to me why it's one of the best-selling games of all time. Absolutely generational. Another game I knew I had to try on the 3DS was Star Fox 64 3D. I've always wanted to play the Star Fox series, so now was my chance to give it a spin. To be quite honest, I was a little disappointed. While it started off stellar with the first level, the rest felt progressively more annoying, and the Grand Master level was just terrible. I think the controls could have been done better, especially when fighting a boss. Also, the entire Star Fox team is useless and die way too early to be of any help. I did really like the music and the characters, and I thought some of the mechanics were pretty cool, like the barrel rolls and banking and all of that. But overall, the game just didn't click for me. Yoshi's Island. As a part of the Mario series, since it is technically Super Mario World 2, this game is quite the breath of fresh air. The art style is gorgeous, the level design is creative, and the bosses are really memorable, especially that last fight with the giant baby Bowser. I did really like the controls with Yoshi and his flutter jump, and the transformations felt quite unique as well. I will admit there was some levels that felt like they overstayed their welcome a little and padded the game time, but still, it's quite the solid 2D platformer. Sonic X Shadow Generations. Sonic Generations started off with a bang. I thought the story and level design were pretty solid for the first 6 levels, and the last part of the game, especially the modern Sonic levels, started to taper off in terms of enjoyability. The final boss was boring and annoying, but most of the other bosses were quite engaging. Shadow Generations, on the other hand, was a complete banger start to finish. The levels were perfect, the backdrop and atmosphere were stunning, and it was overall an amazing experience through and through. That half of the game was a perfect 10 in my opinion. Overall, I liked both, but Sonic Generations had some things to be desired for sure. Pokemon Storm Silver. It had been a while since I played a Pokemon game, and I was itching to get back into it, so I decided to complete a ROM hack that I started a long time ago. Pokemon Storm Silver by Drayano is a vanilla plus ROM hack of Pokemon Soul Silver that lets you get all 493 Pokemon in-game while significantly increasing the difficulty. I made it my mission to beat all 16 gym leaders, beat the Elite Four as well as the rematches with them, and then complete the full Pokedex up to Gen 4. It was a really fun grind, and I love both the Kanto and Johto teams that I put together for each part of the journey. Pokemon Omega Ruby. Still riding the Pokemon high, I decided to play Omega Ruby, my first time in the Hoenn region. I decided to do a Nuzlocke challenge for this game, which I kind of regret in retrospect. Since this is my first time playing this game, and my first time doing a Nuzlocke, I really had to tiptoe around how I played in the endgame, in order to not lose anyone and have to grind a new party member. I didn't love Hoenn's Pokemon variety, but I think I put together a fairly decent team that I was able to beat the Elite Four with. I made it all the way to the end with Magnezone as my only Pokemon standing after beating the champion Lance. Quake 2. This was another one of those games that's been on the backlog for ages, and I'm glad I finally got to get it over with. I played the RTX version because the ray tracing looked beautiful to me, for the most part. My main issue with the ray tracing were areas that didn't have any lighting in it, becoming pitch black since there was no light source at all. The shooting and weapons were very Doom-esque, which is great since I love those games and the arena shooter genre in general, as it's pretty intense and thrilling. My main critique is that the Quake RTX version should have had the changes that were in the remastered version, like the compass, because going through the game without any good instruction was a pain in my ass. Overall though, Quake 2 was a fun shooter and a blast to run through. Super Mario Galaxy. Super Mario Galaxy is unlike any Mario game I've played before. The gravity-based platforming is incredibly creative, and the visuals still hold up beautifully on the Wii. Each galaxy feels unique, and collecting stars was consistently fun. What holds the game back is definitely the main problem for me with the Wii, the motion controls. If they decided to make the Wiimote shaking mechanic set to a button, this game would be better, as that part resulted in so many delayed and missed inputs, which they luckily fixed with the Switch version of the game. Still, an excellent experience. Oblivion Remastered. This game reminded me of how special the Elder Scrolls series is and how much fun can be had messing with the game's mechanics and quests. I made sure that this run would focus on actually completing the main quest, which turned out to be amazing and totally worth it. Had a great time with the Dark Brotherhood and Mages Guild lines as well, and really loved the magic and fighting system after installing some mods. My main complaints with the game is how it would perform pretty poorly before I got performance mods, and that the game felt like it got an unusual difficulty curve after beating the game, at level 15 to 20. I wanted to beat the DLC as well, but I had to quit the Knights of the Nine DLC since the game had started to crash on me when I tried to complete part of the questline. I do think I'll pick it up again down the line. So that was my experience with all the games I played in 2025. In 2026, I want to continue exploring franchises I've already started and dive into even more that I haven't touched yet. Out of the 120 games in my library, I've now beaten or played through 75 of them. Cheers to another year of gaming.